Hello, everyone. So I'm here with Rebecca Hornstein of the Boston Workers Circle. How are you today, Rebecca?
I'm great. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing well and excited to be here and chatting with you.
Me too. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. So the Boston Workers Circle is a community and spiritual home for secular Jewish life, a voice for progressive Jewish values and social change, and an arts and education center celebrating Yiddish, Jewish, and progressive culture. You all have over 800 dues-paying members, double the number from 2016, and have 17 member-led committees that run your social justice, cultural, and organizational work. Speaking from the perspective of someone who puts together our Across the Movement newsletter, you guys really are as active as you say. Like I have submissions from you, like 8 submissions from you guys every newsletter. It's really incredible. That speaks a lot to your work. So tell everyone about all this stuff you've got going on.
Yeah, we do certainly have a lot going on, and that's partially part of because of the amazing members that we have that really make it happen. We'll get into it a little later, but we're a member-run organization, and so it's very people-powered, all of our work. And then I think the other reason we have so much going on is a product of the fact that we're a 125-year-old organization. Our founders were working class immigrants, and they started worker circles, 125 years ago as a mutual aid society, because when they came here, they couldn't really rely on the state to meet their needs. And so they had to figure out, how do we meet each other's needs? How do we take care of each other? And make sure everyone is getting what they need. Um, but for them, it was also crucial that it was connected to this kind of broader political project of collective liberation. Basically, how we would say it today is exactly what they believed, that, we all do better when we all do better. And that, safety for Jews, how they fought the anti Semitism they experienced was making sure that, that they were organizing where they were with their neighbors, making sure that everyone was safe, had dignity, and freedom, and really also with the class politics. So the labor movement was really where they rooted. And in the early days, in order to be a worker circle member, you had to be in good standing with your union too. So you couldn't just get the benefits of the worker circle if you didn't also pay your union dues. So they really saw themselves as like part of this bigger project, and also felt like for their own longevity and kind of uh spiritual like sustenance and long-term engagement with that broader political project, that they also had to root in their own um cultural identity and be passing along their analysis and knowledge and understanding of the world, and culture and identity to the next generation too. So education and cultural work were also kind of core to that. So for them, they really saw all of those three things: community building, and community care, being part of a broader left political project, and education and cultural work. Those kind of like three strands as mutually reinforcing and combined. And I think in today's kind of like nonprofitized world, you're only supposed to be doing one thing, and that is kind of counter to like what we've inherited that still really lives in our organization today, which is that all of those things build on each other, and you can't do one, you can't like organize and do one without doing all three. So that's still the orientation that we have today, but every consultant we ever work with like runs away screaming because it is kind of like a little bit counter to like how we're told today like organizations have to function. But it also, I think, allows us to be really effective because we're really bringing people in and doing deep work on those three fronts. So I think a little bit, just because we're going to get into some of the social justice work later on, just to share a little bit about what we're doing. Like my day right now is we're organizing a 200-person Seder in April that really has liberatory themes, and builds off of some of the organizing and coalition building work that we've been doing in our social justice work. We really try to bring that into the Seder, and it's totally member-led and really intergenerational and vibrant and fun. So that's happening on April 5th. So we're getting ready for all the preparations for that. And then also, we're doing a big concert over the summer We have the world's largest Yiddish chorus that we know about. um, we always say so. It's an intergenerational 80-person Yiddish chorus, um, and um, and so we're planning a big concert for the summer that will honor our partners in our immigrant justice work, and also honor Lisa Gallatin, who's our former executive director and was the founder, one of the founder of the course, and really built it out as it is. And the title of the concert is "Building Bridges Through Solidarity." So again, it's really a way to kind of bring in that cultural work and use it to continue to build solidarity, and build resilience, which I think we all need in these times. So those are just a couple of the many things going on in the organization right
Couple of the many. Now, at the beginning of that question, you talked sort of about, being a member-led organization. And I'm curious what it means to you all to be a member-led organization. So, sort of what's the significance of that to you all, and what's it been like to see Boston Worker Circle's membership increase so substantially and steadily over the last decade?
Yeah, and actually, even since we submitted our JLF application, which said 800 members, we're now at like over 900, closer to like close to 950.
Incredible. We
Um,
love to hear that.
It's continuing to grow at like a really steady pace, which is really exciting to see. And for us, being member led and having is that we're really trying to build our internal democracy and bring people together to like work through the tensions in the organization and really be together at in our full humanity, which I think as also in these times when we're so isolated, we experience things maybe through like the internet or like through our phones. And we're kind of like in this like battle of like humanity versus like the robots and AI. It almost feels like too with like kind of the vision of the world of like the Elon Musks are to get us like away from our shared humanity and away from connection and relationship. So I think, building those spaces of connection and relationship is really, really important. And I think also getting to practice, like in our organizations, building democracy is so important when we're also fighting kind of authoritarianism as a concept too, that we can struggle together and make a collective decision and be in relationship with each other and kind of see our collective brain as better than the sum of its parts. And so kind of bringing people together in a member-led way is just really crucial to our orientation. And it also means, I think, just in terms of JLF's work, which is so important too, it means that in all of the ways, in terms of like the things that we do, and in terms of how we're funded, like we're most accountable to our members too, which I think allows us to um, take the stands that our members want to take. Like we're accountable on every level to our membership. And then also to values aligned funders like JLF. But because we have that base of membership support, like that's what makes up the bulk of how we're funded as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And you
yeah,
mentioned in there a little bit about intergenerational relationships, intergenerational organizing, and that's sort of the theme of this month's newsletter. Amelia Diamond just wrote us a lovely paragraph about, well, a few paragraphs about the youth and why they're so important to our organizing projects.
yeah,
So as you mentioned, Boston Workers Club's been around since the early 1900s, which is a long, long time. Probably the I don't have this data in my head, but probably the longest of any organization that we fund. And I'm sure that means, as you mentioned, your membership is intergenerational and has a long legacy. What does it mean to shepherd such a community, and how do you carry forth the kind of institutional wisdom that has been there since, that 1900?
yeah. For me, it's like an honor and incredibly grounding as like in this intense political moment. It's been very grounding to think of our work at BWC as being part of a lineage and being part of kind of a multi-generational project. So we can think about it means that we're fighting for the same world that our ancestors were fighting for and fighting for the same world we hope our children will continue to fight for too. And we're just kind of one link in the chain. So it's kind of our time to carry the baton of that bigger picture, and it's rough terrain right now, but our purpose remains really clear. And it's just about how do we think about the conditions we're in now in terms of that bigger, like multi-generational project that we're part of. So for me, it's been very grounding. And I think for me, being Jewish and being like in the movement and being an organizer, both of those things like are about kind of being accountable to that multi-generational project. And so, and being kind of part of that bigger lineage. So I think for me, it's like very grounding and important to be part of this like institution, this Jewish left institution and legacy. And it kind of just helps focus and clarify kind of where we are in this moment as well. I'll also say there's like very tangible things too, like a lot of our members who are now like in their 70s and 80s, like saw their communities and their parents and the people that they know going through McCarthyism. And that impacted them really directly. Like we have stories from our members
Wow.
of going to the summer camp that we all go to as a community every year up in New Hampshire. And you know, one of our members has a story of working there as a teenager and seeing FBI agents taking down people's license plates.
Right, right,
And um, and so we have those stories of people who have been through a lot before in this like multi-generational project and have a lot to teach us. And then I think for our older folks in the community too, they feel like they have a lot to learn from the younger folks too around like how our orientation's different, how we kind of grew up in different conditions than they did, and have a lot to say about the world as it is now. And so I think that exchange is like super generative and really important. And I think one example is we're organizing for the end of April to have a, I want to see what we're calling it. It's like a how to survive McCarthyism Shabbat. So
nice.
again, just like a chance for people, which you're all invited to if you're in the Boston area. I think it'll be April 25th. But just a chance to get to hear from people who have been through kind of like the McCarthyist style tactics that we've seen before, which has impacted the Jewish left in a huge way then and is right now as well. So, um, uh, you know, around limiting free speech and this kind of like parallel universe fight against anti-Semitism while propping up actual anti-Semitism, you know, the kind of McCarthyist tactics we're experiencing now on the left and Jewish left, you know, we're not the first people to have experienced that kind of repression. And so, and not even the first people in our own communities that we talk to all every day that have experienced it. So how can we learn from each other? It's like just like our superpower, I think, that we have that to offer that intergenerational thinking and sharing of, you know, across generations of the Jewish left.
Absolutely. Very important. I know you mentioned at one point in there the accountability that you have to your community. I think you mentioned that a couple different times today. Sort of related to that, one of JLS funding priorities is tricky to fund work, which means work that's not likely to receive funding from other Jewish institutional funders due to their commitment to justice-informed values. In your proposal this year, you mentioned that calling for a lasting ceasefire in Israel-Palestine had major ramifications for you organizationally. So what did it take organizationally for you all to be ready in October of 2023 to take that step?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have been lucky in that I think a lot of Jewish communities and organizations, I think understandably, but to the detriment, have kind of avoided talking about Israel Palestine because of being afraid of conflict or afraid of kind of like organizational repercussions. And so it's just kind of been an elephant in the room for a lot of Jewish communities. And that's never been our orientation. We're like a two Jews, three opinions kind of shop. And it's just an old Yiddish saying. And it's been, you know, a site of generative conflict, I think, for our community for decades. And so there's always been, it's always kind of, it's for decades actually been part of our social justice work to be doing anti-occupation work as well. And that doesn't mean there hasn't been internal conflict, but it's conflict we're kind of used to having and working through. And then in 2021, um, a group of members kind of, we have a spectrum within of uh, uh, of politics around Israel-Palestine within our community, all, to the left of kind of where the mainstream is, but still a spectrum in terms of people's, political orientation, relationship to Israel, relationship to Palestine. So like we have a spectrum, and we brought people together in 2021 kind of across that spectrum to hash out what are our shared values around Israel. No, sorry, I froze a little bit.
Okay,
What
yep,
are our
you're back.
I think I'm back. Yeah. What are our
Yeah,
shared values, and how can we kind of articulate what our shared values are in a way that will allow us to take action together, even though we might have really significant differences? But we can say, we value everyone being safe. We value everyone being able to live with freedom and dignity. We value everyone being able to have human rights. And we know that the system that's in place in Israel Palestine right now is not conducive to that, and is oppressing Palestinians and not in alignment with our shared values. And so we know we can take action around that. So that we went through that principles process, and it took a lot to get there. There was a lot of conflict among the group but people really dug into that and worked it out and came out with something that we could all get behind and take action around. And so I think there was actually, even with our spectrum of political differences, there's actually a lot of clarity in October of 2023, which was that what happened on October 7th was horrible. And we couldn't sit back and let Gaza be decimated in revenge for the October 7th attack. So, and that we were really seeing it through the lens of people that we were in relationship with on the ground, both Israelis and Palestinians. Um, so it became, I think it was very clear to us early on, like this, we need to do everything we can to stop what unfortunately we're seeing now, which is, the destabilization of the whole region and just massive uh, slaughter and suffering of Palestinians. And so we took action for a ceasefire really early on. And yeah, and there was a lot of clarity within our community because we'd been through that process together around what are our values around this and how do we really fight for them in this moment. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Now, BWC also organizes Jewish community in the Boston area alongside a number of deep coalitional partners. What do these types of relationships mean for your organizing, and what have they made possible over the years?
Yeah, I think I'll just give an example of a recent action that we partnered with a movement partner in the Boston area around, which is we partnered with an organization called Families for Justice as Healing, which is they're fighting the building of a new women's prison and do kind of abolitionist and anti-incarceration organizing. And it's the organization is families who have been directly impacted. And our fifth grade class partnered with AFJA, our partners, to organize a protest at the State House a few weeks ago. And so through that, it was both part of our educational work and part of our justice work for our fifth graders to really think about what's their relationship to the issue, and how are they going to relate, what's their stake in it, and how are they going to relate to it. And they organized a very beautiful thing that really meant a lot to our partners and helped build power for the work that they're doing. So I think being local, being able to dig into those relationships really is important. Yeah.
That sounds like a really cool and really powerful experience, both to be in coalition with them and for those young people to be able to experience that. So sort of like on that, within that, the realm of that, it's like obviously a really cool organizing initiative. I'd love to just hear about some of your organizing wins. Is there anything that really stands out that BWC has accomplished recently that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah. My dad, who's an organizer and taught me intergenerational, taught me everything I know, always
You
always used to say, or and still does say, that the role of an organizer is to build organization. And I think building organizations and building institutions that can bring us together and help us fight for the long term is like one of the main tasks at hand right now. And I think the fact that we've been able to build our organization while being able to take principled stances on Gaza and um, there's been losses there, like we lost funding from our federation, and not that there hasn't been internal conflict as well, and definitely certainly conflict with the mainstream Jewish community in Boston for sure. Um, uh,
As
but
these stances, cause.
absolutely. And again, we didn't think we were doing anything that controversial by
Right.
calling for a ceasefire either. But it shouldn't be that controversial. But I think the fact that we were able to do that, take a principled stand and take leadership in the Jewish community around that, and have it build our organization and really fill a need in the Boston Jewish community and grow our membership, by 30+% in the past like year and a half,
Wow.
I think feels like a really big win, and something that now those people, those 200 plus people who weren't part of an organization before, maybe are part of our organization and can be mobilized around the work that we're doing, and be in relationship with each other and in relationship with our movement partners too. So I think the more we can do to, yeah, be building organization and be growing our base for all of our organizations, like is a huge win in this time. So yeah.
Yeah, really, really incredible stuff. Yasher koach.
Thank
30%
you.
in a year and a half. I love to hear that. So thanks so much, Rebecca. Now, if someone listening is a Jewish lefty in Boston, would like to find you and get involved with Yiddish class organizing, or any of these other things you have going on, where can they find you to get involved?
Yeah, circleboston.org. Find us on our website. You can shoot our organizer Zohar an email. You can always shoot me an email. I'm happy to plug you in and connect you. And yeah, hope to see you at our Fighting McCarthyism Intergenerational Shabbat in April.
Hope to see you there. Uh, thanks so much, Rebecca. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. Really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your Monday.
Great, you too. Thanks so much, Jordan. And thank you to JL for all the incredible work that you do.
Appreciate it.